With me now, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. Sheriff Clark, what do you say? I mean, what's your reaction to this? Is it open season on law enforcement in this country?
Judge, I am too pissed off tonight to be diplomatic about what's going on, and I'm not going to stick my head in the sand about it. I said last December that war had been declared on the American police officer led by some high-profile people, one of them coming out of the White House, one coming out of the United States Department of Justice. And it's open season right now, there's no doubt about it. Look, anytime a law enforcement officer is killed, a little of every police officer in America dies along with them.
And Sheriff, you know, as law enforcement across the country watches this, and I asked the sheriff, Sheriff Hickman in Harris County, you know, in New York and in Baltimore and in Ferguson, you know, no peace, no justice, no justice, no peace, and all the crazy marches and all the, you know, some of these organizations out there. Apparently in Harris County, this isn't something that was normal. I mean, can this happen anywhere in the country now?
Anywhere in the United States, and I'm tired of hearing people call these black activists. They're not activists. This is black slime, and it needs to be eradicated from the American society.
But how
and American
do you do
culture.
it? How do you do it, Sheriff?
Well, here's how you do it. I need every law-abiding person in the United States of America to stand up and start pushing back against this slime, this filth, this disparaging the American law enforcement officer within these communities. When these ugly people come out and start this and start talking this stuff on social media, to push back against it and demand people that belong to these organizations to get out of their town. There's no room for it. Look, the American police officers holding these communities together, and we need the support of the people that we defend every day in order to get that done. God bless the Harris County Sheriff's Office. Kudos to that district attorney for acknowledging the war on police. But I'm tired of qualifying all these statements by talking about bad apples within the policing profession.
All right. Sheriff, I want you to take a listen to what Ron Hickman, the Harris County Sheriff, said.
We've heard Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Well, cops' lives matter too. So why don't we just drop the qualifier and just say lives matter and take that to the bank?
Interesting reaction.
We need to hear more of that from everybody. I know there's been some pushback on that, and that's good. This whole movement, Black Lies, I've renamed it LIES, because it's based on a lie, the hands up, don't shoot. That's why I said this slime needs to be eradicated from American society and American culture.
Are you prepared? In the event of an emergency, SkySaver is your personal life-saving rappelling device. Rappel from multi-stories in the event of a fire or act of terrorism. SkySaver has been developed by the most respected security professionals in the world, tested thousands of times and certified to the highest in international standards. A backpack that could literally save your life. Visit SkySaver.com right now to learn more. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Greene. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is Monday, August 31st, 2015, and a cop was shot execution style by a black man a couple of days ago. The mainstream media barely talked about it, and the reason being it doesn't fit Obama's racist white on black agenda. Again, his very dangerous rhetoric that's been spewing from the mouth of the President of the United States, Barack Obama, that leads to these heinous acts of violence and murder in the streets at a gas station, I believe it was, in Texas, execution style, where a black man pulled behind a white man, so he couldn't even defend himself, and just blew his head off. I think put multiple rounds, if I'm correct on this, and put how many rounds it was in that comment box. It was like 18 rounds or something like that, I think, from the headline I was reading. Make sure that that is correct. But again, it doesn't fit the racist narrative of Barack Obama and his dangerous rhetoric against police. Now, did the president say anything over the weekend about this cop, this white guy that was shot, like he did with Trayvon Martin, all these countless cases that resulted in the riots that we saw in countless cities throughout the United States of America, including Ferguson?
But my main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Were there riots in Texas? Did you see Caucasians, men and women, burning down buildings? You notice they dropped the charges against all the people that were looting in the streets of Ferguson. I think they should press the charges. Again, they were committing criminal acts, burning down buildings and public facilities and private businesses. Again, it sets a horrible example and precedent in America. But again, the president only speaks on cases like Trayvon Martin. You know, at least in the case of Trayvon Martin, there was an altercation. Now, we know, based on the hardcore actual evidence, that Trayvon Martin was banging George Zimmerman's head into the ground, banging his head. His life was being threatened before the gun went off. Now, George Zimmerman, I think, is a loser, an asshole, and a total scumbag, as we've seen come out later, and should not have been following Trayvon Martin in the first place, but at least there was an altercation. At least Trayvon Martin had an opportunity to defend himself, not this cop that was shot in the back of the head execution style. But again, you won't hear a peep. Obama will keep his lips sealed on this one because, again, this was a black guy executing a white guy, and it's a double standard in America, just like there was a couple white individuals, a reporter who was shot, 3 people were shot, I believe 2 of them died last week, again by a black and also a gay man. But again, did the president speak about it? No, his lips were shut because it doesn't fit the white on black racist narrative, which is what the president of the United States is about. Now, I'm sure some of you caught this story over the week. In fact, Drudge Report was only one of the few places that picked this up and thought the same thing I did, as many of you tell me in the comment box. I want to hear what you think about that story in particular. Also in the news, as I mentioned last week, oil, citing the oil patch and energy, because it's been grossly, overly manipulated. Again, money is an illusion. The markets are an illusion. It's all bullshit. Had been grossly manipulating oil prices below $40 a barrel. I said it's the greatest buying opportunity of a lifetime, that you'll see this artificial reality manifest itself and go the opposite direction. Since that time, oil specifically has rallied 20% in just a couple of days, and is also up today because OPEC has decided that they're going to talk to their trading partners, their other oil partners. Also, they're going to talk with countries like Russia, and I think Putin is meeting with Maduro and Venezuela because they need to raise the price of oil, because again, these countries can't survive with oil below $100 a barrel. Just like we saw at the heights pre-crash 2008 and 2009 with oil at 150 plus range, we're seeing it artificially manipulated into the doldrums. People are saying these oil companies are going out of business. None of that is true. It's just total and utter bullshit. Again, the whole system, the whole market system, everything that makes up modern day economics today in America and internationally is a farce. It's a total lie. It's total bullshit. It's total illusion. Again, money's an illusion. It's not backed by anything. So it's exactly why the hedge funds are covering their shorts, even though oil had dropped below $40 a barrel. And now it's skyrocketing. It was up 5% today alone and 20% on the heels of the reversal last week. Now, again, we have challenges. We have a slowdown in China, but remember, that's a false narrative, folks. You know, the United States wants to blame China for the economic slowdown, for the need of more bailouts and quantitative easing, QE4, Operation Twist, etc., when really the entity to blame is simply the central banks. The central bank here in the United States of America, the Federal Reserve System, the real culprit. And of course, as I've talked about for many years now, this is leading to war. Again, these countries can't survive the economics of oil below $100 a barrel. Russia can't survive. Venezuela has riots in the streets. Iran can't survive. It's one of the reasons oil will go back up or a bomb will be dropped. And nobody's taking into account the geopolitical instability that could also send oil skyrocketing, which has made some of these companies extremely undervalued. Companies like ExxonMobil that pay a healthy dividend, and other more speculative plays in the drilling, offshore drilling industry, etc. Companies like I've mentioned, talked about before, like Rig, Transocean, the Swiss company. You can even look at natural gas plays like Chesapeake, for example. We've also started to see capitulation in that sector, in the energy sector, with some mergers and acquisitions occurring recently, and again, increased volatility, which shows us and signals us that we've probably, honestly, already hit a bottom. Nobody can predict the future. I can't certainly predict the future, but it appears that we've seen some kind of capitulation here. Again, as all of this leads to war. As this dangerous rhetoric that continues to spew out of the racist president that makes Barack Obama that cops are evil, and that helps promote events like this and violent murders of a cop in Texas. You know, these are very scary times, folks, and we need to remind ourselves that it's the President of the United States and the racist media that is a mouthpiece of these corporate interests that is trying to promote this racist hatred. We need to realize, I think smart, intelligent people realize this as you tuning in, and people like myself, this has nothing to do about race. All of us are equals, blacks, whites, I don't care if you're purple, polka dot, or whatever. Our leadership is trying to divide us for a reason. Same reason Hillary Clinton's trying to divide us around sex lines and gender lines. You know, saying things like Trump doesn't understand women and, you know, she's all about female power, etc., etc. One of the most corrupt politicians and political families in the history of America. Her and Bill, their entire marriage and relationship, a total freaking lie, supposedly based on family values, even though it's pretty well known that Hillary is more than likely a lesbian. I mean, it's just ridiculous. This society is insane. It's why people like Trump are rallying on this political incorrectness, because people are tired of it. They're tired of this double standard. They're tired that Obama speaks on people like Trayvon Martin, who was a kid that had a broken track record, who stole shit from people, had run-ins with the law prior to the event with George Zimmerman, even though George Zimmerman was an asshole, but then goes mum when the same thing happens to whites. Doesn't say shit when a broadcaster is murdered in broad daylight, whether or not you think that's a conspiracy or not. Doesn't say shit when a white cop is murdered by a black guy in Texas. The sheriff, I think it was like Hicks or Hicksman or something like that, was saying, alluding to this dangerous rhetoric coming out of the mouth of the President of the United States. I've said it many times before, this president is dangerous. He has radically transformed this country. It's why they've got the borders open, people. Bring them in by the busload so they vote Democrat. So they vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. It has nothing to do with individual liberty or civil rights or freedom or any of that bullshit. It's so they can pad their own pockets, build the base that makes up this radical transformation that has led to this radical transformation and has currently transformed America. You know, their argument, now that they're all here, well, we can't send them back. Now they're here. So now the country is radically transformed. Again, I've said it many times before, there's a reason people are risking their life to come here. Because their countries suck. Their countries are a piece of shit. It's why they're coming to America. And we're allowing these people to radically transform the greatest country in the world. It's time for change, real change. It's time that we stick to our guns and keep our guns and protect this constitutional republic. The same country that fought a revolution in 1776 against the Redcoats and a king. Well, it appears we have kings and queens in Washington, D.C. today. I'm Christopher Greene. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard-hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.